Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is a review of the 1994 comedy Mixed Nuts. And this is one of those films that has a reputation for being a critical and financial failure. It came out in 1994 and it was a big bomb. It cost $20 million and only made $6.8 million. Critics hated it or weren't fans of it. You really couldn't find anyone that was even willing to call it a mixed bag. And after seeing it for myself, I can't really argue against any of the criticisms that this film has gotten in the past and continues to get to this day. It's not a very good movie. I don't even know if I even want to say it's a mixed bag. That's giving it too much credit. Initially, I was rooting for this film because I'm the guy who roots for the underdog when it comes to films. And as a result, I tend to give a little bit more leniency for these kind of movies when I watch them. And after I watched it, I was a little more lenient on it. But the more I thought about it, the more I processed things, the more I realized and saw the cracks in the film's foundation, the more I saw that it was just a bag of really salty, stale nuts, and there was only a few palatable nuts in this bag. And it was just one of those experiences that I really don't have a desire to take part in again. And if that's the case, then it's not a very good film. It's not even an average movie, because an average film would be a time waster for me. It'd be something I could put on and enjoy parts of it and be somewhat captivated or interested in the plot enough that it could keep my interest intermittently while I'm doing something. But with this, it just isn't really even a film that is even on that level. So it's directed by Nora Ephron, and I'm not really that big of a fan of her work to begin with. I didn't care for Sleepless in Seattle. It wasn't really my cup of tea, and I felt her direction in this was firmly below average in a multitude of ways. For one, visually, it's a very flat looking film. It doesn't really have a lot of life to it. It doesn't have a lot of variety when it comes to the camera angles or the perspectives. The best it looks is with establishing shots or times when it zooms away. It does a zoom out, so it zooms out and shows a wide landscape, and maybe some shots where it's showing an extreme close up, so to speak, for dramatic effect or to create a certain atmosphere. But with this film, most of what you get with the direction is very below average uh, stuff. It's just nothing really that impressive. I actually think the more impressive shots have more to do with the cinematographer than Nora Ephron. Uh, the cinematographer for this was Sven Nykvist, and it's a well shot film from that perspective. But from the directorial standpoint, there really isn't a lot going on. And if that isn't bad enough, I feel she did a terrible job reining her actors in. This is a film that has a cast of really talented actors and actresses, and some of them have some really large personalities and quirks and charisma about them that you really need to reel in. And I felt that she did a bad job reining in these actors, in particular Steve Martin and Rita Wilson and Madeline Kahn at points. And it led to the actors delivering substandard performances. There are moments in this film where Steve Martin, who is a really talented actor and is known for being consistently solid in a lot of his roles, there are moments in this movie where his line delivery is awful. It sounds like he doesn't want to be there, or it sounds like the result of a first take. It's the kind of thing that a more established and a more efficient and good director would notice immediately and call for another take. And there are numerous scenes like that in this movie. And a lot of critics have said that the film is like having to watch too many clowns in one movie. And I think that's a really apt way to put it, because it is. It's this cacophony of clowns, of these actors and actresses playing the fool, and the director is one of the biggest ones of them all because the director does nothing to rein them in. She allows them to run the asylum. And it's one of those films that, yes, these are nutty characters, but you need to have some semblance of, I'm trying to think of the right word, control. You need to have some semblance of control with these personalities and these characters. Otherwise, things just go horribly awry and it becomes an obnoxious mess. And I feel that's really what sadly happened with this film. The director just couldn't control the cast, and as a result, couldn't control the movie and allowed it to careen completely out of control. I'm not exaggerating when I say that some of the scenes in this film feature some of the worst acting from Steve Martin and Rita Wilson. And that's unfortunate. It really is. Nora Ephron also had a hand in the film's screenplay, along with Delia Ephron. Seemed like it was a case of nepotism. Oh, I'm going to have my relative be involved with writing it, and I'm also going to write it. I think this would have benefited from having another writer, although it does have some moments where the dark comedy really shines. You have a cameo by Stephen Wright, who's well known for his deadpan humor, and he plays this guy who is calling the suicide hotline because this film takes place around Christmas time, and it deals with this cast of characters whose lives are intertwined with this suicide hotline service, this suicide help hotline service, for people who call in and are having suicidal thoughts. And it's also against this backdrop of Los Angeles, so it's a very different Christmas vibe and feel. And I think that's a positive because it helps the film stand out. It's definitely an oddball when it comes to holiday films. And I think that it makes it a project that is more attractive to certain people who want something different. And I got to be honest, I was one of those people. I've been curious about seeing this film for years because of the cast and because of the oddball nature of it. And that's what makes it so disappointing. Like, you have potential here with this setting and with this cast, but a lot of it's just wasted. You have this subplot with this South Side, I think it's called a Seaside Strangler, the Seaside Strangler, and they do nothing with it. They just use it as a throwaway twist to provide the reason for why the hotline is able to remain running, because that's how they find the money to be able to pay all the back rent to keep the doors open. And it's supposed to be like this serendipitous bit of fate on Christmas night, or the, yeah, I think it's actually like after midnight on Christmas Eve, so on Christmas. But it's just one of those things where it just feels like it's forced. It's not very natural. Just like the love interest, the love story between Steve Martin and Rita Wilson's characters, I didn't really buy it, and it didn't help I at all that you had this subplot with Steve Martin's ex, this girl that he had been dating, and then they broke up. But then she shows up later, and it seems like she felt really bad and wanted to patch things up, and then she gets the door slammed in her face, and then she's out of the movie, and she's never heard from again. But yeah, there are moments in this film where you have some brilliant scenes and some really hilarious stuff. Madeline Kahn stuck in the elevator, beatboxing with a Fisher Price toy, comedy gold. And I don't even know if that's really due to the screenplay. I think it might just be due to Madeline Kahn and how talented of a comedian she was. And so you have bits like that, or you have Steve Martin's speech at the end of the film where he is talking about how Christmas is not always the happiest time of the year for a lot of people. It was a nice dose of reality, and it was a good speech, and it was one of Steve's best performances in this film. And then you had other stuff, like there was a hilarious bit of dialogue from Rob Reiner where he's talking about how he doesn't understand why some women like to have 12 pillows on top of the bed. What purpose does it serve? It's just a total inconvenience. And I really like that line of dialogue because it's so true. Like, why the hell do they? Why do some women want to have like 50 fucking pillows on the bed or the couch? I mean, all you wind up doing is taking them off. What is the fucking point of it? So it does have those moments where it shines, or stuff that just makes you go, what the fuck? And you gotta give it props just for being so out there. Like, near the end of the movie, Garry Shandling, who plays the landlord in this film, he gets shot by Juliette Lewis's character, who's in a scuffle with the gun with her boyfriend, and they wind up trying to hide his dead body in a Christmas tree. So, I mean, there's some really crazy stuff here. But at the same time, it seems like this film that deals with a lot of nutty characters isn't as insane as it really could have been. It feels more tame, it feels more held back. And I think there's an argument to be made that it might have been better if it was more crazy, if it really embraced the darkness of the overall plot and really just turned these characters into complete and total crazies. And it might have blown up in the film's face, but it would have been interesting to have seen that occur instead of what this film ultimately wound up being. And it just feels like a waste of a good cast as well. I mean, Steve Martin, Rita Wilson, Madeline Kahn, Robert Klein, Anthony LaPaglia, Juliette Lewis, Rob Reiner, Liev Schreiber in his first ever acting role, which is a really difficult and demanding role, by the way, as this transvestite character named Chris. And he pulled it off really well. He delivered one of the best and most consistent performances in the film. An interesting bit of trivia about that character is that the producers, they actually approached Chris Farley to play that role, but he turned it down. And I can see why Chris turned it down. It's not really the right role for him. But I think they wanted him to be in it because they had all these comedians. They had Stephen Wright. They had Garry Shandling and Adam Sandler. And of course, Steve Martin and Madeline Kahn. Adam Sandler, by the way, he's one of the worst things about this movie. I could not stand his scenes in this film. This is another instance of Nora Ephron not knowing how to rein in her actors. She just let Adam Sandler run wild, and did nothing to rein him in, which provides the worst Adam Sandler. And this is also early in his career. He's just fresh off of SNL, so he doesn't really have the variety of tools in his toolbox, so to speak, that he would have later on in his career. So he's just doing his silly voice stick and his annoying singing crap, and it's so fucking irritating. He's doing the hubba dubba dubba da in the oh so many things to wonder. It's just like, shut the fuck up. I wanted Dennis Leary's character from The Ref to show up and just stick a gun in his face, make him wet his pants, and take his fucking ukulele and shove it up his ass and kick him out of the movie. Because I could not fucking stand Adam Sandler in this film. This movie was already obnoxious and loud enough, and then you throw in Adam Sandler doing that shtick. Fuck. That was brutal. And yeah, I really do mean it when I say it's loud and obnoxious. It's not just the characters who have loud personalities and their characters are loud. I mean, but that's a big part of it. I mean, there's a lot of the film where Madeline Kahn is just screaming at the top of her lungs, stuck in an elevator, screaming for help. And it's just, you just want to shut it off. Because it's just annoying and it's irritating. And the sound mix and the score is also really loud. I don't know what is going on here. It's like clown horns being blared and honked as loudly as possible throughout the running time. Even one of the ending scenes is Juliette Lewis's character giving birth in front of a Christmas tree in the middle of the streets of Los Angeles, and she's screaming bloody murder. Yeah, I didn't care for the score by George Fenton. The editing by Robert M. Raitano. It's a serviceable job, but nothing really that impressive. I will give the film credit for some of its song choices. I thought its choices of Christmas music was really good, especially in the opening credits, as well as the song that they use near the end with the whole mural by Felix and that whole sequence in the streets of LA. That song is I think The Night Before Christmas by Carly Simon. I thought that was a really great song. It was the first time I ever heard it. So I want to give the film makers and the producers and whoever it was behind that decision a lot of credit, because I really would have never discovered that song if it wasn't for this film, and I felt it really did work well in that scene. I just wish it was in a better film. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about the movie, except that it's just one of those films where you have so much potential, but so much of it is lost because of a screenplay that's not really that cohesive. It's not really that interesting. You don't really care about most of the subplots. It doesn't do much to really make you care whether or not the suicide help hotline is kept running, and that's a serious problem. It's got pacing issues as a result because you don't really care about really much of anything that's going on. Even though it does have its moments of genuine humor, a lot of it is let down by this plot that is just boring and bland. And there are also characters and other subplots within subplots that just don't really go anywhere, and some of these characters are not likable in the slightest, and they have way too much running time. Like, for instance, the couple Felix and Gracie, played by Anthony LaPaglia and Juliette Lewis. The performances by those two are good, but I can't stand these characters. These two are horrible for one another. They should never be a couple. They shouldn't be together. And when Juliette Lewis's character essentially wins the lottery because she gets reward money for finding this seaside strangler, it's not a cathartic moment. It's not a moment where you're like, yay, I'm happy for them. You're like, no, this is the worst possible fucking thing that could happen. She's done nothing to deserve this. Nobody's done anything to deserve this Christmas miracle. Why the hell are they getting this? It doesn't make any sense. Um, yeah, it's just such a really disappointing misfire. And I don't even know if I would recommend it. I would say if it's a film that you're curious about and have been curious about, like I have been for quite a long time now, I would actually recommend checking it out. Because who knows, you might end up liking it a lot more than I did. But this this really just sucked, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I was trying to be not so hard on it, but just there's just so many things about it that I don't like, that don't work, and as a result, it's just not a good movie. It's not really that much of a good time, and yeah, the cacophony of clowns is really the best way to put it. And who the hell wants to be in the middle of a cacophony of clowns? One clown is enough. And then you have like five or six plus the score and the music and the script and everything. It's just a bunch of clowns just screaming at you. It's insufferable. But anyway, thanks for watching my review, more like rant on Mixed Nuts. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.